All right. So we're going to wanted to go back to the other section of the proposal. So there's in this seller's market, there's two things that are coming up that are outside of what's usually put into that proposal. One talking about the appraisal and the other one talking about inspections. Appraisal and inspections are two major causes of deals falling through. You accept the offer, you go to contract, and appraisal happens, inspections happen, and something usually, if it doesn't end up going to closing, it's because of one of those two things. So the sellers in this market now have the ability to try to negotiate those things, those items, prior to accepting, prior to even signing a contract. So before, pre-crazy seller's market, if you're under contract for a house at $250,000, and you start your mortgage process, the mortgage company requests the appraisal. The appraiser goes into the home, reviews the home. They determine that the value is actually $225,000. At that moment, after you're already signed a contract and you're in the middle of your contract contingencies here, then you have to negotiate what you do here. There's what did I say? So there's a $25,000 difference. I think I said 250 to 225. Yeah. So there's a $25,000 difference between where you are, where your contract is, and where the appraiser says that you need to be. So we would try to figure out, is the buyer going to come up with the cash? So the buyer can come up with cash to fill the gap, and then the mortgage can move forward because you're coming up with cash. It's not going to be in the loan. So either the buyer comes up with the $25,000, or the seller reduces their price by $25,000 to meet the appraisal amount, or a combination of both. It could be half and half. It could be, the seller comes down by 5 and 10, and the buyer comes up with 15. So they'll make it up. Or if the buyer stands firm, nope, sorry, I'm definitely not coming up with more in cash. And the seller says, nope, sorry, I'm definitely not going to reduce my price. Contract is done. They both move on. So the sellers now are trying to avoid anything happening later. They want everything negotiated now. So the buyers are saying now, I agree to come up with the difference in cash up to X amount of money. And this is not every time, by the way. This is just when there's multiple offers and you're trying to be the best offer. You're trying to beat all these other offers. So you would say, if you have the extra cash and you're only willing to come up with 5,000, you say that, we put it in there. If we're under contract at 250 and the appraisal comes in at 245, we're going to cover the difference. It may not be enough. The seller may want that additional 5,000. They're like, well, what happens if it appraises at 240? I want to know that. We're going to be able to figure this out. So it's been a big cause of negotiation, but it's now early on. It's before we even go under contract lately. So that's what we're putting in the other section. We would say buyer agrees to pay the difference in the event of a low appraisal up to whatever amount you want, whatever amount you're comfortable, whatever amount you're willing and able. And we can talk through that more in detail, depending on the house, depending on the situation. So that's appraisal. Inspections, sellers never want to be nitpicked. So there's a lot of things that are going to come up in the home inspection. A lot. I mean, even houses that are in amazing shape, the inspection reports are going to be at least 30 pages long. So there's a lot of things you're going to take the home. There's going to be some things that you will take on. It's just to what degree and to how expensive are these things going to be. So what sometimes we're saying is that the buyer agrees to waive the first $3,500, $5,000, again, amount we can talk about later, but in inspection repairs. That doesn't mean you have to pay for that money. You have to do those repairs prior to being the owners of the home. It just means that we're not going to ask for things that don't cost $3,500 or less. So if there's your main service panel, there's a line that goes from your electric panel up to the line, to your main power source. If that line is frayed, that can be like $1,500-ish. That is something you'd have to take on if you agree to waive the first $3,500 of inspection repairs. But if there's the wire frayed and the air conditioning is broken, we add up those repairs and then we can still ask for things, but you are going to be taking things on. So the second thing that we would put in the other section of the offer is buyer agrees to waive the first X amount in inspection repairs. And there's a lot of other different strategies for appraisal and for inspections that I've seen, having sellers, having listings, seeing what other buyers are doing to try to have a little competitive edge. There's a lot of different strategies, but I wanted to make sure that you guys knew that is something that's done, and we would put that in the other section. So in addition to the regular terms, now we have to come up with these other terms so that the sellers feel like your offer is going to get them to the closing table with the least amount of trouble and stress.